So as you mentioned at the top, I was at the game in Charlotte at the Spectrum Center in downtown Charlotte, which we call Uptown here. Um, it felt like the whole city was in that arena. Like you have to remember, the Charlotte as an NBA city was like the crown jewel, and I don't say this just because it's the Queen City and there's a lot of crown kind of iconic iconograph Ico- why am I can't say that word. Why
Iconography?
am I iconography? Thank you. All of the symbols of Charlotte, thank you, Dan, are crowns. And for the NBA, when the Hornets came into the picture, they led the NBA in attendance for 8 of the first 9 seasons of its existence. And they had sellouts in 371 straight games at the Coliseum. It's no longer there. They moved out of the city to New Orleans. The attendance dropped to 29th in the NBA for the Hornets in New Orleans. And then they brought back the Bobcats, and the Michael Jordan era was not great, but he did bring back the purple and teal and the throwback uniforms and the name. And man, it felt like old times again. Dan, the place was rocking in that game, and what a game between those two teams with Eric Spoelstra on one side and Charles Lee, who's up and coming and has this amazing second half run that we talked about on this program. It was a roller coaster, that game. And so as you're watching it, Dan, here's the view from where I was sitting. Steve Ashburner from the NBA, NBA.com, and I were sitting next to each other at this view. If you can't tell it from this if you're not watching it at home and you're just listening. But even if you are watching, it's kind of hard to see. What was lost in this video of the closing seconds in that overtime win for the Hornets was a referee just trucked some fans that were so excited over LaMelo Ball's layup. They ran onto the court, and I think it was
It's a no-no.
Petraeus, he was trying to run back to follow the play as Davion Mitchell was going down the floor, and he just ran over 3 fans because they were going nuts, so excited that LaMelo hit that layup, and he trucks them. And then after the block from Miles Bridges and the rest of the Hornets just like completely smothered that layup, LaMelo Ball is just screaming, going nuts, and he like the Hugo the Hornet runs out onto the court, and LaMelo just like socks him right across the face, and like the Hugo the Hornet is just like, whoa, oh god, it was the most insane thing. And even watching the video, I didn't pick up on those things, because in real time you're just like, oh, I can't believe the Hornets just won that game. They were at a 98% chance. Miami did 98% chance of winning late in the fourth quarter. We
Oh
do this thing on
man.
inpredictable.com that was excitement factor. Like they have a metric that tries to quantify the excitement in a game. And basically, if you look at that win probability graph, how long is that line if you just kind of stretched it out? And if you have a really exciting game, that win probability line is just going back and forth, right? Like a heartbeat. And in this game, it was 27th out of 1,233 games this year. That game between the Miami Heat and the Charlotte Hornets ranked 27th out of 1,233. So one of the most exciting games of the year. And I would dare say one of the most exciting wins in Charlotte history. And I know the jokes are already writing themselves. There's not too many of those big games in the Charlotte Hornets history, but I would say that was one of the best games I've ever been to, most exciting, and certainly in my hometown. I will not forget that game. That was incredible, Dan.
Yeah, and there will be time. There's been plenty of time to throw shade at the Hornet. Like maybe not right now. This is inarguably they've been awesome for months, and inarguably that was fun as hell. And you can quibble with the how sound some of the decision making and some of the playmaking was at different points down the stretch, and there's people to blame and people to credit and whatever. But like if you are a neutral observer and you are just tuning in to see postseason basketball, these games being decided on like hero shots in the final seconds, and incredible swooping in for blocks and incredible dives to the rim and finishing in traffic and all, like that's kind of all you're looking for, right? And so yeah, the Hornets they play a chaotic brand of basketball exemplified to an incredible degree by LaMelo Ball, who finds himself at the center of the conversation in a number of directions, some good, some bad. But is it maybe the NBA's premier maximalist? The feeling of like, Russ post KD, of like he's going to be involved in every possession and it's going to be loud. Every single one of them in ways that are good or bad. Things will happen that you've never seen before. Things will happen that make you leap out of your seat. Things will happen that make you tear your hair out. Things that will happen that make you feel like you need to curse in your walk-off interview. Things will happen where you decide and discussing the post-game things like, I don't know what a concussion is. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens with LaMelo Ball, and you don't always know exactly what it's going to be. But game winner, almost a game losing turnover. I think 30 points on 31 shots. But also like some of the biggest shots, that keeping them connected in the first half when nobody else was making shots. Like it was all quite something. And I think, as you mentioned, heading into the break and coming out of like, one of the things that we have to talk about is, LaMelo Ball goes and he attacks the rim and he is able to get that game-winning layup. Who's not on the floor when that happens? Bam Adebayo. And there's a reason Bam Adebayo is not on the floor. And again, LaMelo Ball finds himself at the center of the discussion.
So I think it was a dirty play. I think it certainly looked bad. In real time, we didn't quite see it happen. Like in the arena, there was no instant replay of the play. We just saw Bam Adebayo go down hard. And from my vantage point, I couldn't obviously see from across the arena the angle in which LaMelo scoops his ankle and as he's falling down, accelerates his hit to the floor and his tailbone. It looks so painful just by watching that. You could almost feel it from across the arena. Bam Adebayo, as huge as he is, hitting as hard as he did, he didn't get right back up. And that guy is tough as nails. Bam Adebayo. He's been through some stuff in life. For him to be writhing around on the ground, I saw Pat Riley, Alonzo Mourning, and Adam Simon, who's the assistant GM for the Miami Heat. They were sitting in the arena, and I immediately looked over to them. They're standing up, and they're looking at Bam because I think they realize if he's still down on the floor, he's hurt. Like he's in a lot of pain. This highlight here from I think last year, a couple years ago, where Bam Adebayo is trying to run back on defense and LaMelo Ball scoops up and tries to trip Bam Adebayo as he's running back. It's part of whatever the NBA is going to review here. This highlight, again, from a couple years ago. The NBA is going to have to review this, and Chris Haynes is reporting that they are going to review this incident with LaMelo Ball. The question is whether the NBA is going to suspend him for a game, which would be the play-in game, the do-or-die game that they're going to go on the road to either face Philly or Orlando, or are they going to come in with like a flagrant one infraction, just kind of post hoc call? It's a tough one, and Eric Spoelstra has to kind of like walk a fine line here because he knows the rules that if there's no foul call, they can't review the play. And so there really wasn't that trigger for the NBA officials. And Curtis Blair, he's looking at that. He's right there seeing the play. His head is looking down at the play. I don't know if he was obscured, that he didn't see it. But if you're a Miami Heat fan, I think you're really in pain today because they did not have Bam Adebayo. And Khalil Ware, as good as he was on the boards, he's not Bam Adebayo, who's one of the premier defenders in the league. And you're right. So much of those plays at the rim would be snuffed out by Bam Adebayo. And here's Spoelstra's comment. I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's funny. I think it's a stupid play. It's a dangerous play. LaMelo should be penalized for that. He should have been thrown out of the game for that. I don't have any rebukes of that. If you're Eric Spoelstra and you're the opposing coach, I totally get why you feel like they missed that. And if you're going to take out Bam Adebayo on a dirty play, I don't care who it is. This is not a Hammurabi's code eye for an eye type thing, but I think it's very important to note that Bam Adebayo is the single most important player on that Miami Heat roster. It's not even close. And without him, the fight that they had was a classic Miami Heat team to fight back and keep that game close without their guy.
Absolutely. And our pal Cooper Moorhead covers the Heat for Heat.com, has a great, like, kind of stark numerical look at this. Bam only got 11 minutes in this game. And in those 11 minutes, the Hornets scored at an offensive rating of 90.9, which would be, bottom of the NBA by a million miles. And in the 42 minutes that Bam wasn't available, the Hornets scored a 135 offensive rating, which would be
Yeah.
best in the NBA by a million miles. And of course, like small samples and yada, yada, yada. But it puts a fine point on it. Like, when Bam's there, the Heat are an excellent defense, an elite defense. When Bam's not, they're not. And some of that is just with the way he can protect the rim. Some of it's with the way he switches. Some of it's with the defensive rebounding, which was a huge problem when he wasn't there. The Hornets, I think 17 or 18 offensive rebounds, 25, 26 second chance points. Like, that was a big source. Moussa Diabate, the energizer, the way he was extending possessions, all that. Like, Bam not being there plays a huge factor in that. And then it's all like insult to literal injury that, like, it's not just that LaMelo kind of gets away with that from the Heat's perspective and then is able to continue. He's the guy who hits the game winner. So, like, yeah, you certainly can understand Spoelstra having that strong a reaction to it. I don't know that there's anything the league's going to be able to do after the fact to kind of ameliorate that. Like, it's a little bit of the toothpaste out of the tube here from the Heat's perspective. But yeah, looking forward, we've talked on this show about, as much as, there's credit to be given to Brandon Miller and to Moussa Diabate and to Con Knipple and to other players and coaches and everything else. LaMelo Ball is the swing factor for the Charlotte Hornets. When he's on the floor, the offense is elite. When he's not, it's not, generally speaking. And so, like, if he's not available to go on Friday for whatever reason, say an after the fact suspension, I would be very surprised if that's the result here, but I guess you can't rule anything out. That's a dramatic shift in what the likelihood of the Hornets advancing would be. And if you don't, the Hornet, I think we've all talked about this, like the idea of the Hornets have been a top 5 team in the East for months, like them making it into the 8th seed to be able to take on the Pistons. Like, that's, I think, the matchup people really are excited about potentially seeing, especially if you're looking at like a Philly team that's not going to have Joel Embiid now that he's had the emergency appendectomy, or, good Lord knows what's going on with Orlando. That team has certainly seemed haunted for much of the season and down the stretch here. But, like, that's kind of what we're looking for. But pending this review and pending the outcome on Friday night, an awful lot's up in the air. And that's not, I don't think that's the headline anyone would love to have coming out of such an exciting, such a compelling game looking forward. But also, like, again, it's inarguable. You cannot look at the way that game concluded and the back and forth nature of it, the way that Charlotte was able to come back and get to its shots, get buckets late, the Heat having to go to their zone so often in the fourth quarter to like wrong foot or Charlotte to get them off their rhythm, was they weren't going to be able to get stopped any other way without Bam back there. So unfortunate to not be able to see it be both teams at full strength with their full complement of star players. That's sort of where we have to leave it for right now, I suppose.
127. That was your little number last week. That is the Hornets' offensive rating in the minutes that they play with LaMelo Ball off the floor and Coby White on the floor. Dan, go take your victory lap on this one, because Coby White was unfreaking believable in this game. The three that he hit in the corner, because he tried to get it off so that they wouldn't foul, and just he was able to hit that shot, was one of the most, like, Ray Allen-esque, where the whole arena could not believe he hit that shot. And the 11 points at the end of the third quarter there going into the fourth was electric. Coby White, can the Bulls front office get fired again for that trade with Coby White? When they got Coby White, I was just like, man, that's all that they had to send over to Chicago to get Coby White, and he's been awesome for them. And like you pointed out, Dan, he is kind of the straw that stirs the drink when LaMelo Ball is not on the floor, and he was unreal in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I probably shouldn't take too demonstrative a victory lap, because he was on the floor when Con Knipple wasn't, and we had the whole Con Knipple Rookie of the Year conversation, and then he hasn't made a shot since, I don't think. But the Coby White component of it, has been, yeah, he was sensational. I mean, there were jokes to be thrown about, like, play in game veteran Coby White, with the Bulls being sort of the ancestral homeland of the play in game, and plenty of experience playing against the Heat, who also are forever in the playing game. But they needed somebody to make shots, especially, yeah, they were really stagnant. They were having such a hard time generating good looks in that second half. And I believe 17 of his 19 points are in that second half, only turned the ball over once. He played 26 minutes and they were plus 21 in them. And obviously that shot was, an absolutely electric shot that they had to have there at the end of the game. So yeah, I mean, this is why they knew they needed another ball handler, another shot creator, another guy that they could turn to make a shot late in the game. And I think, like, every time you looked over and said the camera went over and so it showed Con Knipple bummed out on the bench, it's like, yeah, but this guy's in there to kind of do what they were looking for out of Con that Con wasn't able to do tonight, and certainly paid off for Charlotte there. And, like, if obviously if LaMelo's not going to be available, or if Con Knipple is continues to struggle, which he has for the last few weeks coming down the stretch of the regular season, you'd imagine there's going to be more minutes, more opportunities, and they're going to be more of a need for shot creation and shot making from Coby White. Looks like he's certainly equal to the task, or was at least in the first play-in game there.
Can you walk me through the Amazon Prime snafu that happened? What was your experience with that?
Yeah, so when it went to overtime and you got to the point where I believe that it was because there's the staggered tips, right? You've got the East Coast game, the West Coast game, early and
Yeah.
late. And I believe that when it got to 10:15 Eastern, it was like, well, this is when the changeover needs to happen. And rather than being able to say, we're going to start this one on ESPN2, or we're going to start this one on, TBS, or we're going to start this one on True TV or whatever, it was just like two things trying to happen at the same time. And it kind of went like, whoops. And what you saw was just a technical difficulty screen. And
Oh
it
my
was one of the
God.
rare times in my life that me and LeBron James were doing the same thing at the same time, but watching it and going like, "Huh, something is amiss here." And it was I think about 2 minutes where it was off. And you had to, like, go back to the main screen and then go from the main broadcast down to a second thing and click around, and it wasn't great. We missed I believe, a LaMelo Ball bucket early in overtime. That then you go back and review, and it's like, well, should that have been a travel? So we're missing live game action in a game of
Oh,
that
you missed his
import
decel?
at the slow step that looked like he might have hopped. Yeah, that first bucket, I believe, in overtime, or second, whatever it was. I forget exactly when, but yeah, there was a chunk of time that all you had was a blue screen saying technical difficulties, and not exactly a ringing endorsement for it. But the after the fact explanation was, I believe there was a hardware failure in the production truck. They got it fixed as quickly as they could, and they got back to seeing it. But yeah, there was a chunk of game time you just did not see, and not the maiden voyage that the Prime Video crew was looking for, I'm sure, to introduce into the postseason. But hey, we're working things out, and there's a couple of days before the first day of, like, proper playoff action. So hopefully, whatever redundancy systems need to be put into place, they will look to do that between now and then. But yeah, missing. I guess if you had to miss anything, it's better that than, like, the Coby White shot, or the Tyler Hero 3, or the game winner and then game sealing block. Like, it wasn't like it blew out during that. But probably would be better to not have any of it happen. But I'm easy
There's
for
so
me to
many.
say. I'm not a live TV producer.
Yeah, having been on these broadcasts, there's so much that goes into going on air that
Yeah.
I had no idea until I could see, kind of peek behind the curtain on literal semi trucks in the arena that are filled with switches and boards and wires that they travel around the country in order to just be able to broadcast a game. And so much of it is just it's a tightrope act. So one thing I want to point out here is that short circuited. Con Knipple short circuited too in this game, where he was just not effective. And in this story that I'm publishing, about to hit publish on, I'm saying that playoff experience is overrated and inexperience is the new thing. Well, Con Knipple, I think a lot of those Duke White Lotus memes were going around when Con Knipple was really struggling in this, because it felt like he hasn't been right for weeks now. And in the biggest moment, the Charlotte Hornets seem to shrivel up. 0 for 6 from downtown, 2 of 12 from the field, 6 points and 34 minutes. He was struggling, and Charles Lee made the tough decision to bench him in a lot of big moments and have Coby White out on the floor or Sion James out on the floor. Sion James taking the ball out on a lot of possessions to get the right pass, leaning on a rookie to do those in those big moments. Coach Lee was making a lot of points in the post-game press conference to shout out Sion James, who is, kind of this unsung guy for the Hornets, a rookie who played at Duke, but simply came up big in those big moments. I would just say, for Con Knippel's sake and LaMelo Ball's sake, thank goodness for Coby White, because that was an incredible performance that saved them. A great layup, but man, James Borrego, he got let go after the second play-in loss with LaMelo Ball, and it felt like we were heading to our third playoff loss watching LaMelo Ball. And they did a great job coming back in that game. But I love the play-in tournament for this reason. I don't love that it stratifies the NBA, that a lot of teams just decide halfway through the season, the 10th seed is really not worth it. We're just going to go tank for, lottery positioning. But when you have these stakes, win or go home, it is so much fun. And I want more of that in the NBA schedule. I don't want to wait until April before we have real stakes in these games. So Dan, I think just a big victory for the NBA last night and a big victory for the play-in tournament. It was awesome and a great way to start off the postseason.
Absolutely. And, we're doing this a few hours before night 2 of the play-in, where you've got Philly and Orlando and the Warriors and the Clippers. So plenty to live up to there. I mean, just selfishly, I would say if we could not have everything come down to the final possession at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, like that would be good for
Whoa,
me personally. Like I
no,
would,
no.
just as somebody who's got a lot of writing to do and not a lot of sleep to do it. But if that's where it comes down to, that'll be my cross to bear, and I somehow think I'll get through it.
Awesome game. Buzz City is back. It was, I think, like a moment for the whole entire region. Just felt like this relief wash over us because we've for the last 2 decades we've been hearing about how the Hornets are the laughing stock of the league and the play-in tournaments have not been kind, and yet it is a great basketball state. And with Duke and Carolina, NC State, Wake, of course, college basketball, Charlotte is a haven of great basketball, and it's great to see the Hornets have been on a tear over the last few months. Something we've dug into a lot on this program, and hopefully we'll dig into it some more if they continue this run. And they got to win on Friday, so we'll find out who their opponent is, and we'll be back next week